You're confused. She used to smile at your texts, laugh at your jokes, want to hear your voice every night. And now she's quiet, short replies or worse, no reply at all. You check your phone again, nothing. Your mind screams, she doesn't care anymore, but your gut whispers something else is going on. What if I told you her silence doesn't mean she stopped loving you? It means she's testing to see if you love yourself. Let's talk about why women ignore the men they actually love, and what to do when they go silent. Not to chase, but to rise. Comment below, I lead, not react, because that mindset will carry you through this moment. She's not ignoring you, she's feeling you. When a woman pulls back, you immediately think something's wrong. You start overthinking, you replay old messages. You ask yourself, did I say something weird? Did I push too hard? Is she losing interest? But most of the time, it's not rejection, it's reflection. She's not sitting there hating you. She's not trying to punish you. She's feeling your energy, feeling your presence, feeling the space between you. Because in that silence, she's not looking for words. She's sensing your depth. She's asking without asking. Will you fall apart without her? Will you chase her if she stops running towards you? Will your energy shift into fear or stay rooted in strength? You see, she doesn't need you to perform. She needs to feel your peace. She wants to know if she closes the door a little. Will you knock like a boy or wait like a man? And listen carefully. This part is hard to hear, but powerful to understand. She needs to feel something stronger than her own storm. And that is not your logic. It's not your explanations. It's not you asking what's wrong over and over again. It's your presence, calm, still, unbothered when she's unsure. Can you stay sure of yourself when she's quiet? Can your silence still speak confidence when she takes space? Do you fill that space with panic or with purpose? Because her silence is not to hurt you, it's to measure your emotional gravity. Can you hold her storm without losing your center? That's the question she's silently asking. And the man who answers without saying a word becomes unforgettable. Masculine stillness creates feminine trust. A woman doesn't fall in love with words alone. She falls in love with the space you hold. Not how much you talk, but how deeply you stay grounded when things feel uncertain. Because when she's emotionally overwhelmed, when she pulls back, when she's quiet or cold, she's not always trying to leave. Sometimes she's just trying to see. Can you handle the parts of her that aren't easy to love? Can you be the calm when she's the chaos? And this is where most men lose her. They think her silence means they have to do more, say more, prove something. So they chase, they overtext, they try to fix. And she feels all of it. Not the love, but the panic, the desperation, the fear. And that fear, it tells her you're not safe. Not physically, emotionally. Because if you can't handle her silence, how will you handle her storm? That's what she's asking, not out loud, but deep in her heart. She's wondering, can I trust this man with my most raw, unfiltered emotions? Or does he only show up strong when things are going his way? Stillness isn't about being cold. It's about being calm when she's not. It's about being unshaken when her feelings are all over the place. It's about showing her you can move, you can feel, you can retreat, but I remain grounded. That's what makes her trust you. Not your effort, not your performance, but your ability to stay rooted, especially when she feels like she's falling apart inside. Stillness is how she knows she's safe with you. Stillness is how she knows you're not just a man in love, you're a man in control of himself. And when she feels that, when she senses, you don't flinch, you don't beg, you don't chase. She doesn't just respect you, she relaxes into you. And that right there, that's the deepest form of attraction. Most men fail because they react. She doesn't reply for a few hours, and suddenly your whole mood shifts. You stare at the screen, you start typing, then deleting, then typing again. You send a follow-up, then a sad emoji, then maybe you post something, hoping she'll see it, hoping it'll trigger her. You tell yourself, I'm just showing I care. But from her side, it feels different. She doesn't see a strong man loving her. She sees a man trying to regain control over her, but over his own emotions, through her attention. You're not texting because you're calm. You're texting because you're unsettled. You're not posting because you're fine. You're posting because you're afraid of being forgotten. And she feels that, even if she doesn't say it, she senses it. That shift in your energy from confidence to confusion, from grounded to grasping. And that's where attraction starts to fade. Not because she doesn't love you anymore, not because she wants someone else, but because you stopped being the man who led and became the man who chased. She loved your calm, she admired your stillness, she leaned into your strength. But now she sees you reacting like every other man. Panic in the silence, emotion in the waiting, performance in the distance. And quietly, something inside her starts to close. Not out of anger, not out of cruelty, but because the emotional gravity that drew her in just got replaced by neediness. You see, almost doesn't die from silence. It dies from reaction. Because when you react, you're no longer leading your emotions. You're being led by them. And when a woman senses that, she no longer feels safe. She no longer feels trust. She no longer feels drawn. Not because you're a bad man, but because you forgot who you were. She doesn't need more texts. She doesn't need your sadness on display. She doesn't need you chasing. She needs your center, your stillness, your quiet confidence. Because when you stop reacting and start responding with peace, you remind her of the man she first felt safe around. And that is the man she wants to feel again. Her silence is the fire that tests your foundation. When a woman truly loves you, she doesn't just want the good times. She wants to know that what she's feeling is real. That the connection is real. That the man she's leaning into can hold her when life stops being soft. Because here's the truth. Anyone can love during the easy days. Anyone can be confident when things feel secure. Anyone can show up strong when they're getting constant reassurance. But life isn't always easy. Love isn't always loud. And when a woman truly feels something for you, there's a moment deep inside her where she starts to wonder, is he really that grounded? Can I lean into him even when I feel uncertain? Or is his strength only there when I'm feeding it? She doesn't say this out loud. She doesn't tell you, hey, I'm going to pull back and see how you handle it. No, she just moves subtly. She gets quiet. She texts a little less. She creates space. And in that space, the test begins. It's not a loud test. There's no big argument, there's no dramatic scene. Just stillness, just distance, just quiet. And most men, they crumble right there. Because the moment she steps back, they rush forward. They start overthinking. They start texting more, calling more, proving more, trying to grab something that isn't being taken from them, just temporarily hidden. But a grounded man doesn't grab. He breathes. He recognizes the silence. He feels the distance. And instead of reacting, he studies himself even deeper, because he knows something most men never learn. Her silence isn't rejection. It's reflection. She's reflecting on what she feels, on whether your love is real, on whether your energy holds its shape when hers starts to shift. Because that's the test. It's not about you being perfect. It's about you being unshakable. Because if your strength only shows up when she's loving you loudly, it's not strength, it's dependency. If your peace only exists when she's praising you, you're not grounded. You're addicted. And she can feel the difference. She feels the shift in your energy the moment she steps back. She sees the doubt in your texts, the fear in your urgency, the collapse in your energy. And quietly, she starts to lose trust, not because you're a bad man, but because you showed her your foundation wasn't built in you. It was built in her. And that scares her, because deep down, she doesn't want to be your emotional center. She wants to orbit around your strength, not become the source of it. So when you sit in the fire, when you hold your posture without panic, when you let her feel whatever she needs to feel without chasing or controlling, you show her something most men never do. You show her that your calm wasn't performance, it was who you really are. And that's when she starts to trust you at a deeper level. Because now, you're not just the man who shows up in love. You're the man who holds steady when love gets quiet. And trust me, she remembers that. She remembers the stillness, the steadiness, the silence you carried with grace instead of fear. And in that moment, you stop being just another guy. You become a man she can rest in, a man she can trust with her whole self. Not just her affection, but her storms too. Her silence was never meant to hurt you. It was never meant to punish you. It was never about proving she didn't care. It was about seeing if you did, if you cared enough to stay centered, to remain calm, to lead without needing to be LED. And if you passed that test, if you didn't fold when the fire got hot, she'll feel that not just in her mind, but deep in her body, in her nervous system, in the part of her that wants to finally exhale into someone solid. That's what this test is really about. Not silence, not games, not distance. It's about foundation. And the man who doesn't crumble, the man who doesn't chase, the man who doesn't fear the quiet, that's the man she can finally trust with her love. Let her pull back, you pull inward. When she starts to shift, when her energy feels different, when the rhythm that once felt close and effortless suddenly slows down, it stings. She used to light up when she saw your name. Now, she's taking hours to reply. She used to lean in. Now, she's leaning out. And every part of you wants to close the gap, to fix it, to explain yourself, to ask what's wrong, to reach for the connection that now feels just out of reach. But that's the trap, because the moment you start chasing, you shift the energy. You stop being the calm center and start becoming another storm. You move from grounded to grasping, and she feels that. So what do? You let her pull back, you let her breathe, you let her feel whatever she needs to feel. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough to respect her process without losing your power. You don't follow her out into the emotional fog. You return inward, deeper than you've gone before, into overthinking, not into self-pity. Not into what did I do wrong, but into silence, into solitude, into strength. You reconnect with the part of you that existed before she showed up, the part of you that had purpose, discipline, focus, fire, because you didn't become a man just to orbit her love. You became a man to lead your own life with, or without her response. So go back to your routine. Get up earlier, move heavier weights, eat better, work harder. But not to prove anything, not to numb the ache, not to distract yourself from her absence. Do it to rebuild your rhythm. Do it to remind yourself you were never meant to be saved by her presence. You were meant to be sharpened by her distance. Because what most men don't realize is this: women aren't pulled in by how much effort you throw at them. They're pulled in by the energy you become when they're not around. When she feels you pulling at her, it creates resistance. When she feels you chasing, she loses respect. But when she feels you growing without needing her, that's when her attraction deepens. Why? Because you become a mystery again. You become a man she can't fully figure out. And that's powerful because it's not noise that creates attraction. It's the contrast, the space, the silence, the tension between what was and what still might be. She doesn't want to feel you grabbing at her attention. She wants to feel your weight even in her distance. She wants to feel your focus, even without her words. She wants to know that the man she was drawn to still exists without her approval. So let her pull away and don't follow her. Not out of pride, out of principle. Let her wonder why you're not chasing. Let her feel the shift in your presence. Let her sit in the silence and ask herself, why does he still feel so powerful without me? That wondering, that space, that pause, it doesn't push her away. It pulls her in because real men don't chase love. They become love. They become rooted, grounded, magnetic, so deeply inside themselves that connection flows to, not from them. You don't attract her back with effort. You attract her back with undeniable energy. Not neediness, not noise, not trying to make her feel guilty for leaving, but simply becoming undeniable. You're not trying to win her over. You're trying to win yourself back. You're rising into the version of you that doesn't shrink when love feels distant, but expands in that very silence. So let her go, to punish her, but to purify your own foundation. And while she walks, you build, you evolve, you deepen. You stop asking how to get her attention and start asking how to command your own presence. Because if she was meant for you, she'll come back. But if she does, it won't be because you begged. It will be because in her absence, you became the kind of man she never thought she'd lose. Not the one who needed her to stay, but the one who stayed rooted when she left. And that's the man she won't want to walk away from again. A stoic man doesn't fear distance. He understands it. Understand this. Not every silence means it's over. Not every pause is a goodbye. Not every shift in her energy means she's fallen out of love. Sometimes she just needs space to catch her breath, to make sense of what she's feeling, to stop absorbing everyone else's emotions, including yours, and simply come back to herself. She's not always walking away. She's not always closing the door. She's not always deciding against you. Sometimes she's just listening for the one thing she can't hear when the noise is too loud: her own truth. And in that space, as she pulls back and grows quieting, she's not only thinking about herself, she's thinking about you. She's watching you silently, carefully, not to catch you making mistakes, but to see who you really are. When she's no longer holding the emotional connection up for both of you, she's asking herself, will he panic without my presence? Will he spiral now that I'm not constantly validating him? Will he chase me like everyone else did? Or will he hold his center? Because here's the truth no one tells you. Women don't just fall in love with how you treat them when they're close. They fall in love with how you carry yourself when they're not. And this is the moment where the stoic man stands apart. He doesn't chase. He doesn't beg. He doesn't explode in confusion. He doesn't start playing games. He doesn't let his identity bleed out through every unread message. He doesn't fear the distance. He understands it. He respects it. And more importantly, he uses it. While she's away, he doesn't sit still. He doesn't wait at the edge of his seat, refreshing a screen. He gets deeper into his rhythm. He sharpens himself. He trains harder, thinks clearer, builds stronger, moves quieter, yet with more weight than ever before. He doesn't collapse without her affection. He expands in her absence. Because a stoic man knows his peace isn't something she gives him. It's something he brings to the table. She may be uncertain, she may be emotional, she may be all over the place right now, but you are not. And that contrast is everything. Because she doesn't want to carry both her emotions and yours. She doesn't want to become the anchor. She wants to feel anchored in your presence. So when she pulls away, when she lets go just a little, what she's really asking is, will you still be steady without my hands around you? Will you keep walking in purpose or start circling her emotional orbit? And the man who understands this, the man who holds the line not from ego, but from emotional maturity, he becomes unforgettable. Because she starts to see something rare. She sees a love that doesn't beg for her return, a love that doesn't try to convince, a love that doesn't perform for attention, but instead leads through the silence. She feels something that makes her nervous and safe at the same time. Power without pressure. She sees your restraint, your calm, your quiet strength, and that creates more security than any long message ever could. Because in a world of men who react, you are the man who responds with peace. And it's not just attractive, it's rare, it's sacred. Because she knows if she can feel you steady now, she can trust you when life really tests her. Not just when things are fun, light, and passionate, but when she's uncertain, when she's scared, when she needs to let go and finally rest in someone. And that's what her soul is truly looking for. Someone who doesn't crumble under her silence. Someone who doesn't need her love to feel valuable. Someone who doesn't trade their self-worth for connection. Someone who leads without controlling. Who stays still without being cold. Who waits without needing to be chased. Because trust built in silence, trust built in the distance, lasts longer than any promise spoken in comfort. And when she returns, if she does, she'll remember you not as the man who chased her back, but as the man who never lost himself when she stepped away. And that's the kind of man a woman won't want to walk away from again. Her silence is a doorway, not a wall. When a woman truly loves you, she doesn't just give you her attention. She gives you access to her thoughts, her softness, her care, her vulnerability. And that level of access, it comes with caution, because the more she feels, the more she needs to protect what she's feeling. She's not guarding herself because she doesn't care. She's guarding herself because she does. And before she hands over the deepest parts of her heart, before she fully surrenders to your presence, she needs to know one thing. Can I trust this man in silence the way I trust him in closeness? Because any man can be loving when things are easy. Any man can speak sweet words when she's responding. Well, but what about when she's distant, quiet, processing emotions that even she doesn't fully understand? What do you become then? That's what her silence is asking. With words, but with space. She's watching your posture, your energy, your stillness. She doesn't care about what you say. In that moment, she senses. High chat gapped. Who you are when her attention is no longer the air you breathe. And this is where most men fall, not because they didn't love her, but because they loved her from fear instead of from foundation. They think her distance is punishment. They assume it's rejection. So they panic. They push. They try to fix a problem that doesn't exist. And in doing so, they create one. They over-explain. They over-message. They get angry. They blame her for the silence instead of seeing the gift hidden in it. Because here's what they miss. Her silence isn't a wall. It's a doorway. A doorway into deeper trust, into deeper love, into deeper safety. But only the man who knows how to walk through it without fear will make it to the other side. Because when she goes quiet, she's not asking for you to chase her emotions. She's asking, will you hold your steady? If you chase her every shift, she'll feel unsafe. If you respond to every emotion with a bigger emotion, she'll feel overwhelmed. If you treat her silence like abandonment, she'll realize you've made her the source of your identity. And that's too heavy for any woman to carry. Because she doesn't want to be your center. She wants to feel your center. She wants to know that your peace was never for sale, that your value doesn't disappear when she steps back, that your presence doesn't need to shout, because it speaks even in silence. This is why she tests not to play games, not to punish you, not to mess with your head, but to ask the unspoken question, can I trust you with the parts of me that don't always show up happy, loving, and clear? Because if she gives you all of her, not just the smiles, but also the storms, she needs to feel like she won't lose you in the process. And the man who reacts loses her. But the man who remains still, strong, composed, earns her. Not because he fought harder, but because he didn't need to fight at all. He didn't perform. He didn't beg. He didn't argue with the silence. He simply became the kind of man whose presence is felt even when he says nothing. That's what creates devotion. Not pressure, not chasing, not trying to win her back. Devotion is born in the space where she no longer feels she has to manage your emotions just to be close to you, where she doesn't have to choose between loving you and protecting herself. That's the space where she relaxes. That's the space where love begins to feel safe again. So let her go, quiet. Let her create space. Let her wrestle with her own heart. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to make her come back. You just need to become the man who doesn't vanish in her absence. The man who doesn't mistake her silence for his failure. The man who knows the difference between space and separation. Because when she feels that, when she sees you haven't collapsed just because she paused, she sees the kind of man she can finally trust. And that trust, that's what makes her come closer. Not because you pulled her, but because you didn't pull away from yourself. She doesn't want someone to chase her. She wants someone she never has to run from. Someone who holds the doorway open without forcing her to walk through it. That's you. That's the man who turns silence into strength. And that's the man she never forgets. If you're in that space right now, confused, hurting, questioning your worth, staring at the phone that stayed quiet for hours, rereading the last message she sent, checking if she saw your story, wondering why it all suddenly feels so distant, this is for you. Don't spiral. Don't let that silence twist your identity. Don't let this moment convince you that you are not enough. Because this feeling, this deep ache in your chest, it's not weakness. It's not failure. It's not the end. It's the weight of becoming. It's the heaviness that comes right before a man steps into the next level of himself. It's the fire where comfort dies and strength is born. It's not rejection, it's refinement. So breathe. Stand still, in fear, in ego, but in power. Not to punish her, but to protect your peace. Because your peace is sacred. It's not something she gives you. It's something you carry. And no woman, no silence, no space, should ever have the power to take it away. Let her walk, let her take space. Let her figure out what she feels. Let her wander through her own silence without making it your prison. Don't chase, don't argue with the distance. Don't try to force clarity in a moment that was meant to build character. Because this moment, right now, it's the edge of who you've been and who you could become. And while she walks, you build your body, train harder than you ever have. Turn your pain into power. Use the silence as fuel. Channel the confusion into focus. Let the heartbreak become discipline. Build your mission, your income, your habits, your presence. Let her absence refine you, not destroy you. Because the strongest men are not built by applause. They're built in isolation, in the quiet moments when no one is clapping and no one is watching, but they keep going anyway. If her love was real, she will feel your absence like gravity. She will notice that you didn't fold. She will remember that you didn't chase. She will feel your presence more in your silence than she ever did in your pursuit. And if she returns, it won't be because you begged. It won't be because you explained your worth. It won't be because you convinced her to stay. It will be because in the time she walked away, you became unforgettable. You became the man she thought only existed in stories, not the man who needed her to feel whole, but the man who was already whole long before she ever entered the picture. And that's the man she always hoped you were. So stay grounded, stay silent, stay powerful. Because one day, whether she comes back or not, you'll look back at this moment and realize this wasn't the moment she left. It was the moment you came home to yourself. Comment below. I lead, not react. Write it. Declare it. Not for me, for you, for the part of you that's ready to stop being pulled by emotion and start being driven by mission. That sentence be more than just words. Let it become a daily reminder. Let it live in your notes, your mirror, your mindset. Because when the storm comes, and it always will, you won't need to go looking for strength. You'll have already decided who you are. And maybe somewhere, another man will read your comment, a man you've never met, a man who's hurting silently like you once did. And your words, those 4 quiet words, will stop his spiral and start his rise. Because the real strength, it's not in chasing someone to stay. It's not in proving your worth with noise. It's not in reacting every shift, every silence, every emotional wave. It's in stillness. It's in that grounded energy that says, I am enough. I don't need validation to stand tall. Strength is when you can sit in discomfort without falling apart, when you can hold space for someone else's distance without losing your direction. When your value isn't on trial every time someone pulls away. That's what leadership is. Not controlling others, but mastering yourself. So if this message hit your chest like truth, if it landed in that deep place no one else sees, don't just nod in silence. Live it. Carry it into your next conversation, into your next rep at the gym, into the next time you want to chase and instead choose to breathe. Carry it into your morning routine, your journal, your focus, your discipline. Let your actions speak what your fears once tried to silence. Let your energy be the answer to her distance. Let your composure become louder than your need for reply. Because the man who leads, he doesn't need to be loud. He doesn't need to be seen. He just is. And when she sees that version of you, the grounded, unmoved, powerful version of you, she won't just see a man. She'll see a presence she never wants to walk away from again. You don't chase. You don't react. You lead. Type it below. Say it out loud. I lead, not react. Let that be the start of everything that follows. Hi chat gapped.